Morning and happy Friday. It's the last day of Economic Development Week. My name is Ashley Volts with the BC Economic Development Association, and I'm zooming in today from South Tumuk, the traditional and unceded territory of the Stalo people.
So we're kicking off Mother's Day again, a little bit early.
Our webinar with WeBC from Champions to Ambassadors. We've also launched some content on the BC EDA YouTube channel, which you can find using @BC EDA. We've got some ECDev in action stories from our Economic Development Award winners 2023. People are celebrating Economic Development Week around the province, including Minister Brenda Bailey, who's got a message for our EDOs, thanking us for strengthening local economies. And I just wanted to mention that the BC EDA website does list job opportunities. This is a free service for BC EDA members. And right now we've got a great list of jobs available if you're interested in furthering your career in economic development. I'm pleased to introduce Shauna Harper from WeBC. Thank you, Shauna, for your support of BC's economic developers. Over to you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Ashley. So as Ashley said, I'm Shauna Harper from WeBC. I'm just going to pull up my slide here quickly. Make sure I can do that. Do y'all see that okay?
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. So I'm coming to you from the CLX Okanagan Peoples Nation, what's referred to today as Kelowna. I'm grateful to be able to live, work, and play on the beautiful lands, especially on a day like today. And I understand that we're going to be getting beautiful weather all through the weekend. So I'm going to start off here to kind of tell you a little bit, about myself first before our organization, so that you can better understand kind of the perspective I come into and how I joined even WeBC. So I grew up in Vancouver, but then moved to Prince George 13 years ago. And about a year ago, moved down to Kelowna to take on the CEO of this organization. And my time up in the north really kind of gave me a passion for rural economic development, as well as for the last 13 years, even before I took on this position, I was very passionate about championing women entrepreneurs and helping entrepreneurs in general in being a part of the economic development of every single community. And so our passion here at WeBC is about empowering women entrepreneurs to their business success. Those of you might know us actually as Women's Enterprise Center. 2 years ago, we ended up changing our name from Women's Enterprise Center because we didn't really have a center anymore to WeBC, so Women Entrepreneurs BC. And we help women entrepreneurs start and grow, develop, lead their businesses, and then sometimes eventually sell their businesses as well. And so, like I was saying, I'm from the Kelowna office here, but we do also have a small office out of Vancouver as well as team members across the province. And we are federally funded, but have a provincial reach. And so we're funded through Pacific Can with the Development Loan Fund in order to help specifically gendered lens women entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses. The way we kind of approach it really is with partners, with chambers of commerce, community futures, kind of right across our province. And we provide what we call a holistic approach, where it isn't just offering the capital, but also the skills development, the mentorship, and other resources that women need in order to grow and expand their businesses. We have here Susie from Rustic Reel. It's a brewing company here in Kelowna, and she's one of our clients that started over COVID. So in here today, I'm going to share a little bit about WeBC, but more so about, the ambassador program that we have created in the last 4 years, and what it means to regions like yourself and the communities when it comes to economic development. So like I had said, we offer, the loans and skills development. Many of the communities right across also have community futures located across the province as well. We usually partner with community futures when loans need to be, for example, more than the 150,000 that we can offer, or we also partner with BDCs and credit unions sometimes, because starting and growing a business, you need capital to be able to grow. And then, of course, we have our advisory services and then the training that we kind of spoke about, that I spoke about just previously as well. And then a big part of what we found really valuable right across our province was our mentorship circles. And what used to be in person has now also come online, which has given more access to more rural communities throughout BC. Last year, when we actually did a survey, we actually realized that we served 191 different rural communities across British Columbia. And I made my team double check that number because I was surprised at how large it was. And so when you take a look at this photo here, this is my team. We are 15 people, so there's a few people missing here. But for us to cover the entire province is quite a feat. The majority of us are out of Kelowna. We do have a small team out of Vancouver. But how we look at it is we take a look at the economic development regions. Grab this little clip from the BC Business Magazine from this month. And I was like, this is a perfect way for us to take a look at breaking up the province into different regions. And what we've done in the last 4 years is through a funding pocket, we were able to build an ambassador team across the province, so far with 4, and with our new funding pocket, we're looking to grow our ambassadors' reach to about 10 across the province. So we have currently 2 on the island, and then 1 in the interior, and then 1 up north in Prince George. And I want to share with you kind of what we've done in order to kind of grow the ambassador program and what it means for your community as you try to bring resources that are federally funded into your community. So I'm going to start here with Pauline Stevenson. So through the Enhancing Mosaic of Women Entrepreneurs over the last 4 years, we were able to bring Pauline in as, she's a great example of the other ambassadors we have as well. You take a look at a community like Courtenay, 28,000 people situated kind of in the Comox Valley and in that region, about 72,000 people. And we brought together Pauline, who was already a champion of ours, and turned her into an ambassador. So our ambassador program is a paid program that we pay champions of WeBC to represent WeBC in their local communities. We found that although we've been around for 28 years, we've theoretically served the entire province, but it is a very large province to serve. And so in the last 4 years, we had our MWay, the Enhancing Mosaic program. And through Pauline and other ambassadors that you see there, they became connectors for us in the local communities. They went to Chamber of Commerce events, went and reached out to Community Futures, to BDC, to Futurepreneur, and to the local women in the communities. And that enabled us to get a reach kind of deeper than just visibility in the community. It meant really building relationships and empowering and building the capacity in a local individual that lived and did business in the community. And what that resulted to for us in the last 4 years is that in this past March, we were able to celebrate International Women's Day, as well as our mentorship celebration with an entire group of women out of a small town like Courtenay, and have quite an impact through an individual like Pauline, who is a natural connector. And so this program became really valuable, especially over COVID, when we needed to have our eyes and ears and really our heart and soul on the ground in the communities. And so from here, what happened April 1st is, some of you might have heard in the media, that our organization received another pocket of funding called the Capital Community Capacity. We're calling it C3. And so as we look forward to really 2023, 24, but really 2025. It's a 2-year program. We're now looking to expand our ambassador reach throughout the province. For the next year, we kind of have earmarked the North Island, Campbell River, Port McNeil is kind of 2 communities, the North Coast, Nechako area, kind of the Northwest area is what I normally refer to it. We're looking at Smithers and Terrace area. And then in the Kootenays, we've placed 3, Revelstoke, Nelson, and Kimberley. And so you might be from a community and listening here and you're like, my community's not represented here. And I would great to be able to have an ambassador. And part of the way we build our ambassador program, and really it's different than just putting up a job posting for our ambassadors. This is something that the ambassadors that you see here, these were people that were previous either clients of WeBC or what we call champions of WeBC. Pauline was a mentor of ours. Brianne was also a mentor of ours. Cheryl was a facilitator and mentor. Tara was a client and a loan client, as well as a mentor for us as well. And so it's something where what we try to do is find women in communities who are champions first. They're extremely passionate about helping women entrepreneurs. They have a business that requires them to be out networking, get out into the community. And people in the community would describe them as helpers, connectors, open to growth, and learning and training. And that's a big piece of it as well. This is Carolyn Gibson. She's not ambassador of ours yet. We've got our fingers crossed, but she's definitely a champion of ours. She's a facilitator of our Taking the Stage program. She has her own business as well as an EIR for the startup community in Revelstoke. And so these are the types of people that we are looking for in your communities, and why I kind of labeled this presentation, champions to ambassadors, because really for us, we're looking for champions of women entrepreneurs in your community to be able to empower them to become ambassadors. And that's where I want to talk to you a little bit and kind of in more detail about the ambassador program and why at WeBC we're taking our funding to invest in your ambassadors and what it means. At any point, if anyone, it's kind of weird to have this one-way presentation. If you want to either save your questions to the end or even raise your hand at any point you can, as I describe our ambassador program. So as you can imagine, it's obviously an outreach program where we train our ambassadors to reach out to your community, to tell them about WeBC and our services. But we also pay for them to attend events in your local communities. And so it's something where, especially entrepreneurs that are in businesses that need to build a lot of leads, like in communications and marketing, in coaching, kind of the ones that often connect with women entrepreneurs in their communities. The outreach part is something that we usually onboard our champions through businesses like that. But, Pauline, for example, she's a trainer of entrepreneurs and businesses and has a business training program. From there, we also have them also empower them through funding to be able to gather women within your community. So if you're a community that already has, for example, a women in business network, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to be able to send our ambassador into that program and either sponsor events or speak at the events or host different events like that. But should you not have that in your community, we do empower ambassadors to then host events like that to be able to bring and gather women together. We also have our mentorship programs that I was saying that have now really gone more virtual. But when we have an ambassador on the ground, we can then host mentorship circles right in your local community to be able to have women find other networks around within their community and or have workshops that are applicable to them. So for example, Cheryl Wagner, which was the Prince George community ambassador, she's driving up to Smithers and she's, what's going on here? She's driving up to Smithers to be able to do a facilitation on the imposter syndrome workshop that we do. And so they become community builders and teachers and facilitators. But the part that I think I'm the most excited about bringing together is a part of a program that I am the CEO of this organization because I was a champion of WeBC, but also a champion of the startup community and an ambassador for Startup Canada. And through those two organizations, our organization and Startup Canada, I learned a bit of background on what we can do to really empower community members to be champions for your community. And it was the training that I received both from WeBC at the time, which was a Taking the Stage program. And then another program that Startup Canada gave us, gave me when I was just a champion and an entrepreneur in Prince George. And it was a program for Startup Canada where they ended up giving us public relations training and how to, in small communities, reach out to both our MLAs or MPs, as well as our local government as well, to advocate on behalf of organizations and causes I believed in. And this is a program that we're bringing in over the next 2 years through this new funding, that we're not just bringing our ambassadors together to promote us, but we want to also empower these ambassadors with actual skills development in advocating for us, for sure, women entrepreneurs, because they're passionate about it, but for other things in their community that they're passionate about as well. Because who you see today, you know, I'm now the CEO of WeBC. If I'm linked to you on LinkedIn, you'll see that I do a lot of public speaking, a lot of facilitation, a lot of community building, and all of those things. But 13 years ago, when I went to Prince George, I was a woman that could not stand, you know, I'm an introvert naturally, and so I needed a lot of development to be able to be a public speaker. And so I find that our champions are not always the ones that are first and foremost the ones out there doing the connecting and the social butterfly, let's say. I was that person that wasn't necessarily the social butterfly, but I was extremely passionate about empowering women and extremely passionate about making sure that the North had the same services coming from Vancouver. I realized the resources in the northern region weren't the same as the ones that people had out of Vancouver. And so I was passionate about making sure that those resources like Women's Enterprise Center at the time were going to be brought up to the North, that we had organizations like Minerva brought up to the North. And so I use this part where now in the training that I've told our team that our ambassadors are individuals that we hope we can have with us for 2 to 3 years, but we know ambassadors move on. But can we train them so that they become community members that can advocate for their regions even long after they leave WeBC? And so the training program that we want our advocates to have are training programs that really come from experience of my own, where I learned that, in urban centers, when you want to, get meetings with your MLA or your MP or your, local government, it's much harder to do. But in rural communities, it is much easier to do. But how do you position yourself? How do you make sure that you're positioning your words and the way you speak to government that can maybe change policy or influence change in your community? How can we bring that type of training? And this is something that we're going to be doing with our ambassadors over the next 2 years. The other part of it that I really learned from being a champion myself is that really increasing the visibility of our communities into both the provincial but national piece. Not only is it important, obviously, to the communities to be connecting resources to our community, but when I was a champion for Prince George, what I found was when I got our articles in Prince George into, for example, the National Post, it built the confidence of our entrepreneurs locally to be able to be represented in national publications. And so a big part of this is training our ambassadors. How do they become connectors and tell the stories of their local communities onto our WeBC platforms? But then later on, WeBC is connected. We're connected not only provincially, nationally, but internationally as well. And so how do we reflect these stories? Not so much for the importance of your communities needing these resources of international. Yes, there's some learning, definitely, but more so that it ends up increasing the visibility, but building the confidence of your entrepreneurs and your business community to see them represented nationally. And so this is something that a part of our program is these 4 things. The difference between our champion and our ambassadors is really these last 2 things of getting access to our networks, as well as the training and the advocacy training that we do. But more importantly, our ambassadors are paid individuals in your community. They're not just getting the free ticket to the chamber events and those other pieces. We do have the funding pockets to be able to pay our ambassadors to represent us. So on that, I really, I'll kind of go over a little bit more about our programs that we do have in WeBC. We really focus on what the new funding has meant for us. For us, the last 28 years, we focus mainly on pre-startup and startup and kind of the established businesses. So really these 2 here. We offer free start your business info sessions that are available online every single week, from how do they register their business to how do they create a business plan and do their cash flow projections, to even training programs on market research, learning about the funding puzzle. We've been doing that for really the last 28 years. We've also been doing ongoing guidance on financial management, HR support, and marketing. And that's really for kind of the startup to the established business kind of phase. What's new in our funding right now is that we are creating an on-demand learning. And so if you are from a community that might be smaller and may not have the resources right in your local community, all of these are available online. But the new program that we do have is an on-demand learning that means that 24/7, 7 days a week, they can actually learn in an interactive way through a new on-demand learning portal that will be coming up by the end of this year, specifically on these 3 pieces here: the finance, the HR, and the marketing. Currently, our finance, HR, and marketing are webinars or trainings in local communities. But what we have found is as people over COVID got more comfortable online, and especially because we deal with the demographic of women, that oftentimes they're building their businesses around their families, around their jobs, and around sneaking in time when they can. So they can't attend the webinars at the times that are posted. And so we actually have this interactive on-demand learning program that we will be developing with our new funding. Another area that we have been focusing on is between established and growth clients, where it's around access to new markets, export strategies, and growth. We have been supporting trade missions to different areas that the federal government has been going into, as well as supplier diversity. So getting certified as diverse businesses, being women-owned, they qualify under the diversity certification. But if you do have, for example, an influx of newcomers or diversity in BIPOC communities, we also have always done diversity certifications as well as for Indigenous communities. But the new program that we're really excited about is, investor ready training program. A lot of communities now over COVID have been looking at how can they get their community entrepreneurs looking at being ready for investors to invest in so that they can grow and export and look at new markets. And so for us in this new pocket of funding that we've just received, we are looking to grow our growth advisory as well as our investor ready training programs, and also our growth mentorship circles. So prior to this, we were only mentoring kind of newer businesses that weren't necessarily looking at that trajectory of growth. We would hand them over to different organizations, but we found there wasn't really an organization that did that growth mentorship other than in private companies that charged a lot more. And so through this funding of the federal government, we have been able to get funding for kind of growth mentorship circles as well. So this is kind of the WeBC lineup, kind of what we offer here and kind of where we're going with kind of the new funding that we have. I don't know if there's any questions. I'd love to be able to answer directly, because from the communities that you're from, are there questions that you might have of our program directly that might be applicable to your community itself? Anything in there?
I wonder if everybody's gears are turning when you're speaking about a community advocate and champions, and if you're thinking of that person, I'd encourage you to reach out to that person that you're thinking of, women entrepreneur, and educate them on the resources that WeBC provides.
Absolutely. And really, that's how we go from finding the champion then to this whole piece is like, if we can find more champions in the local communities, and from there, that's how we shoulder tap our champions to become ambassadors. So if you're looking and you're saying, hey, we're not one of these communities, the reason why we have all these communities that might feel somewhat random, it's because we have already champions that have really championed us above and beyond. You know, they, prior to even getting paid as champions, they've been champions of WeBC. So for us, we've gone to these communities first. And so if you know of a woman entrepreneur in your community that you're saying, hey, by the way, do you know about WeBC and what they offer? Maybe reach out to them and see kind of some of their services. And then from there, they can always reach out to me directly as well if they are already mentors in other programs. And we can see about turning them from a champion into the next round of ambassadors that we do welcome in. We do bring our ambassadors into our head office to connect with our team, to be able to train them into the advocate pieces as well as the connectors. And what I found really valuable as well is if you look at this part here, this regional part, if you can imagine right now, we're building a heavier number of ambassadors in our island, Vancouver Island and coastal. We're building a huge group here out of the Kootenays. We're hoping to have one out of here and one out of here as well. And so for us, what we want to do is be able to connect our champions together provincially as well, so that they actually learn from each other's communities what works and what doesn't work, and how can they do business across the province as well, in the sense of, oh, by the way, did you know, this organization is looking for BC made businesses that are looking for swag for their event. Maybe they can recommend that to them. And so this is something that's really important, that when we have champions that are looking at connecting to other provincial champions, they're be able to connect their businesses to other people in the province that also have entrepreneurs that are women owned and are also champion women as well. So this is an important part of our ambassador network. Yeah. And then from there, these are our information pieces if you want to connect with us. I've kept the presentation to leave room for questions, but I don't know if there are any at this point here. If there are, you can unmute yourself and let me know. And then also to connect with me on LinkedIn. As the CEO of the organization, I travel the province in search of our champions, to thank our champions, to connect with other economic development arms of the municipal governments like yourselves. And so I'd love to be able to connect with you directly via LinkedIn, and pop me an email if you want to set up a time to maybe speak about your community specifically. So, yeah. And then any questions? Everyone's
This is
ready.
great.
Yeah, don't want to keep you from lunch and to all of the other pieces.
Everybody's raring to get out into the sunshine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Shauna, again, for your
You're
support
welcome.
of BC EDA and BC's economic developers, and especially the women entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Oh, there's also a chat thingy here. Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Jen, to follow up directly for sure. And you'll see me for sure at the next conference. That was an amazing conference. Thank you to Ashley and your team. WeBC will definitely be there and be able to connect with all the communities that way too. So
Great. Well, I hope everybody stays cool this weekend, and thank you for joining us for Economic Development Week. It's been a great week.
Yeah. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Jessica.